About 13 people here. Excellent. So before we get started today, do we have any questions? All right. So what we're going to be doing today is continuing with our lesson on Sketchup. And on Monday, we all downloaded Sketchup on our computers, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about, again, what Sketchup can be used for and why, and the advantages that designing something on the computer can have. For example, if you wanted to make a table or a bookcase, somewhere to store your CDs, and you started sketching it out on just pencil and paper, when you think you had a good shape, you decided to start building it, you could run into some problems where maybe the ratios weren't lined up exactly how you thought, or maybe you made it too small or too big, because with drawing you just have to be work really tediously, work really carefully to make sure everything matches up. When you use an online, or not an online, a CAD software on your computer to build a model, when you use the software to build a model, the computer checks to make sure everything's working. And as you're building, you can make sure that everything is lining up. You don't really have to worry about it, because on the computer, the model that you're creating is made to size that you set. So it's a way to model to help you design something you're going to build, or even if you have a 3D printer, like we do, we can use a model and then send the information from that model to the 3D printer and it can print it out for us. If you're an architect, you can use models to test out different design projects you had, different ways to innovate architecture and designs. Sometimes ask, and that's a way also that you can try and make things as cheap or as efficient as possible. Maybe you already have a good design, but you're wondering how you could reduce materials but still maintain your building's structure. Someone is asking if there is a lab this Thursday. I know last week there was no labs, there was a break. I am not sure whether or not middle or high school has lab this week, so I will ask Mr. D. Samuel and I'll let you know. All right. So last week, or on Monday, hopefully you guys all got Sketchup on your computers. And if not, this is where you go to get Sketchup. And just send me a message or a question if you need this link. And remember, once you have Sketchup and you start it up, this welcome page pops up, and we're going to be using the architectural design millimeters as our template, and you can choose different templates. Some people were having trouble with their computer. Their computer didn't like the millimeters because that's such a small unit, and the model is then going to have to be way more accurate if the base unit we had was something like feet, because that's, it's going to be much bigger than a millimeter, and you're only going to be having to measure how many feet or how many feet and a half something is. With millimeters, it's just going to take a lot more information, and it's going to take, the computer has to be that much more accurate. Break things down into that many units as opposed to feet, which would be much fewer feet. That being said, if your computer is really slow, if you're having trouble running it, you can try switching it to something larger than millimeters. I recommend meters. But we prefer you work with millimeters, because for working with a Raspberry Pi, or pardon me, a 3D printer, we're going to be printing objects that are very small. All right, so last week, or on Monday, we worked with we learned kind of the basics of SketchUp. We talked about these different axes, and we're going to be working with these more today. Um, SketchUp likes to work on these different axes. If you're thinking about 3D space and you're aligning a piece of paper, really you can align the paper however you want, in any sort of slant or any way. And you can on SketchUp too, but it's going to want you to start off, before we use this rotate button, it's going to want you to start off and choose one of these axes. The green axis is the Y, the red is the X, and the blue is the Z. And that's that axis that is coming straight out of a piece of paper. We talked about drawing lines and simple figures, and then using pulling and pushing to make them 3D. And then we talked about orbiting, which was using the angle changes to change your view, versus panning. And when we pan, we're moving around, we're using that little hand, and it moves our camera. Then we talked about rotating and moving, and we're going to review this in a little bit, on how you move an object and how you rotate it so that it's tilted. And then you can also use the magnifying glass to zoom. Oh, great, Sam has millimeters working. Someone is asking information about how a 3D printer gets its material. And you can't tell a 3D printer to build, a wooden bookcase. 3D printers use a really special kind of material that is similar to what Legos are made out of. And we're going to learn more about how that works in the physical realm in a little bit, Stephen. But that's a great question. It's if you've never seen a 3D printer working, and your parents are okay with you looking at that on YouTube, definitely check that out. They're very, very cool. But we'll be learning about them in a little bit, so don't worry if you don't know how this works. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about rotating. I'm going to build a box by first building a rectangle, and I'm going to edit undo so that I can go over that again. When you're building a rectangle, make sure you get in the habit of clicking to start it, and then again clicking to finish it, as opposed to dragging that shape. It'll let you be more accurate. Okay? And to make it 3D, we use the push-pull button. Right? And then we can rotate it using this circle of arrows. And depending on the face, it will do different things. If we started on this face and rotate that 90 degrees, oops, so that those arrows are up and down, we can then rotate it this way. We can do it with this side. And rotate it this way. Oops. Or we can do it from the top, and you're just pressing again, and twisting the object. It does not want to twist. That helps if I can change the orientation there. So I know this can be difficult to see. One second, guys. There we go. All right, and that's how you can twist objects. On those different faces. And to move it, you're going to, remember if you just use the move key and grab onto a face, it will pull just that face, just like the rotation does. I can press escape so that I'm not moving that anymore. But if you, I'm going to try to grab this whole box without grabbing that woman. If I grab the whole box, I can click on the move button, which are those 4 arrows, and move the entire object. And those dotted lines, they let you know which axis you're moving. So right now I'm moving it up and down. If I just want to move it closer to that woman, wait until you see those dotted lines are green. And I know that's kind of hard to see, that's a really light color. If I wanted to move it just to the right, but not up or down any, just wait for those red dotted lines there. All right, and now that you have it all highlighted, you can also spin the entire box. And you can see now, instead of twisting the object, you get to rotate it and orient it anywhere. And that's because you have all of the faces selected, as opposed to just that one face. And remember, when we have the one face, it's as if you're holding on to the bottom of the box and twisting the top, or holding on to this side of the box and twisting it so that the sides twist, but that opposite edge won't twist. All right, and so we can flip the box this way. And flip the box this way. And again, to get it so that it flips the whole box and not just one face, just like getting it so that you move the whole box and not just one face, we use our selection key, which looks like that mouse pointer, and select the whole object or box. And you can do it with anything. You can do it with this woman. Perhaps it'll let me do that. Not as well, but I can flip her around this way. And with any object, you just have to select the whole thing. All right, so any questions there? Great. Hopefully that was a little more clear. And then we have lines and edges, and we saw before how it's going to want to align them onto that certain planes. And it's going to let us know about endpoints, when your mouse pointer is on the edge, midpoints, which are those cyan colors, and inferring. And inferring is just super helpful when you're trying to make a specific shape, or you're connecting lines, or you need to end a line halfway midpoint. For example, if I wanted to make a triangle, here we go, so I made my first line. And for the second line, I want the next point of my triangle to be directly across from the midpoint here. I direct my pointer over to the midpoint, which will be cyan, but I do not click. And then it gives me that inference line, and that I can travel along that green axis, the y-axis, and make my point still the midpoint. When I complete that triangle, kind of turn around, you can see that I've made a perfectly straight triangle, an isosceles triangle. Why is there a woman standing there? Asks someone. Stephen? Stephen, there's a woman standing there because, as we will see later, you can use this woman to know how big to make objects that you are modeling. We're going to make a table a little bit later, and we can use her to know how big to make it. Let me grab this object. First, let me delete my triangle. Let me grab this object and move it so close to her. I can do things like use the push-pull. And let's say I was pushing from above. Oops, there we go. That's really thin, but you can see that now it's by her knee, and I wanted to bring it down to the floor. I can use the woman as a reference point. But first, I want the table to be about, oh, I'm gonna have to rotate a little bit. I want the table to go down to her feet, and I can use her foot, the bottom of her foot, as a reference point. So when I bring it there, note, if I'm all the way over here, I bring it to her foot, that's where this object is going to stop. And I want to go to her waist. And I can again use that as the reference point. And this is just an average sized person. All right, Stephen, I hope that made sense. We're going to be using this later. Okay. The last shape that we're going to talk about, and we looked at this a little more, just making circles and polygons with our large toolbar, is we're going to draw arcs. And arcs is kind of the last big shape on that initial toolbar, so we're going to learn about how to make them, but we're not going to use them right away. So let's say we wanted an arc roof on this box. You start with selecting the first endpoint. The next is to create the second endpoint. So now we've pretty much made a line, and I'm selecting my endpoints to be the endpoints of this box. And then the next step is to build this bulge. And you can see you can make it different shapes. And it creates an arc or a smooth line. And then I can use this to create that arced roof there. All right. So again, to build an arc, it's 3 steps. You click that arc button there, and you click the first click you're going to make is going to be the start point. The second click is going to be the end point, and then you're going to pull the line into an arc. You guys can try that out. I'm going to make another arc over here. My start line, my end point, or my start point, my end point. Oops, I didn't make an arc, I made a line. My start point, my end point, and then I'm going to move up to create that arc. Okay, any questions on that? Great. Okay, great. Olivia? Hey, Olivia, do you have a question?
Which one do you click for the arc again?
The arc is this black line here.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these objects. Oops. There we go. Using my selection tool and selecting all of them. Reorient my screen. Okay. And what we're going to talk about now are orientation. is orientation. That was the wrong grammar there. We're going to talk about how standard orientation when you're using SketchUp is that when you draw an object, SketchUp is going to want to draw the next object that you make. So let's say I drew this rectangle first, and then I wanted to draw a circle that came out of the rectangle. SketchUp is not going to want me to do that. So let's say I wanted to make this shape where I have a rectangle going up and down on that z-axis. And then I wanted to make my circle on that xy axis. It's going to want to put the circle just directly onto that rectangle. And to get it to not do that, what you use is the Shift key, and then you do an example first. So you draw your initial object, which for us is the rectangle, and then you hold down your Shift key and draw your example object using whichever orientation that you want. This time I would have it flat on the XY plane. And then you continue holding down the Shift key. You haven't let go of the Shift key. And then it will allow you to draw that circle in whichever orientation you told SketchUp. So this is a little confusing, so make sure everyone is paying attention because I'm going to ask you guys to do this on your own in just a minute, and we're going to wait and until everyone can do it. Let's say I have a flat rectangle on my XY plane, so flat like it would be like the floor, and I want to put a circle straight up and down on this red and blue plane on the XZ plane, so it's going to be straight up and down through this rectangle. To do that, I select my circle, and then I hold down Shift, make my circle, and do not let go of the Shift key on my keyboard, and you'll see that I have this option now that no matter where I go with my mouse, that circle isn't going to change. It's still going to let me do just this orientation. And that's because when you held down the Shift key and drew this circle, you were telling SketchUp, this is the circle I want you to draw. This is the orientation I'm going to be using. And then you can just delete this other circle that you drew. All right, so does anyone have questions with that? I want you guys to try to do this on your own. I'll do it one more time. The key is the Shift key. It's the same. It's the same on Macs as it is on PCs. It's just the Shift key, how you capitalize a letter. So the first thing you do is you draw your rectangle, and I want a straight up and down circle. So I'm going to click the circle, press my Shift key, draw the circle the way I want it. I'm not releasing the Shift key, and then I'm going to draw another circle on my rectangle. And you can play around and see that if I wanted to draw another circle on this circle, it's only going to want me to draw it in the same orientation. But again, I can choose this flat orientation with my Shift key, not let go of my Shift key, and then I can add another circle there. All right, so do you guys see what I'm doing here? See, I can add another circle going this way. Hold down my Shift key, draw my circle, and then I can again draw it there. How do you get it on the z-axis? That just depends on how you're oriented. Make sure that you have enough space, and it's just you have to kind of mess around with SketchUp. So if I'm down here, it's only going to want me to be on just the XY axis, right? Because I'm down here kind of on what it's calling the flat space. If I'm up here on the Z axis, it will let the circle kind of take on that shape. And to get the circle in the other direction, I'm going to have to reorient myself using the orbit key. And my circle will have changed colors. Go ahead and raise your hand when you have succeeded in making something like this. Great, I'm already seeing a few hands pop up. That's great, guys. Yeah, and you can message me if you can't raise your hand, but you just want to let me know that you did it. Great, Sherry. Great, Max. All right, we're still waiting just for a few more people. Will and Ben. Hey, Ben, how's it coming? Did you get it to work? Not quite yet?
I'm sorry, what?
Hey, Ben, are you getting it to work, or did you need any help?
Uh, I just kind of wasn't registering anything. Sorry.
It's okay. Let me show you one more time. There are a couple other people with their hands down. All right, Ben, so I'm going to show you, and if you haven't gotten it to work, let me just show you guys one more time. So we're going to draw our flat rectangle, and we want our circle to be going up and down. So I'm going to grab my circle, I'm going to orient it up here. That's the kind of circle that I want. I want it to go straight up and down through this rectangle. Hold shift, draw my circle. When I let go, I'm not going to let go of shift. So I still have shift, and I then can draw this circle on the rectangle. And the reason that I'm doing this is because if I did not, SketchUp would only want me to draw flat circles on that rectangle. All right, good. I'm glad you guys seem to have gotten the hang of this. Let's move on to the next item, which is really cool. And this is a kind of tricky thing. We're going to be using our large tool set, and I'll show you guys how to get that in a minute. But it's called the Follow Me tool. And again, everybody, please pay attention to this presentation right now, because this is a really cool tool. It's going to allow you to create some great edges and do some really cool things. And it's going to be kind of the first tool that it increases your efficiency. It allows you to do something rather fast as a cut around to having built the object. I'll explain what I mean more when you see what it does. So what you do is you create a shape, and then once you have the shape that you want cut out of your object, you select the tool, you select the shape, the face of the shape, and then you really slowly, patiently, and carefully, you trace your mouse. You're not pressing the mouse down, you're just tracing it, almost as if it was a magnet, over your path. And this red line and these dotted lines will follow your mouse so that you know that it's working as you complete your path. And so this tool can be frustrating when you're first learning how to use it, because it does take some time to master. It's not It's very sensitive, so if you move your mouse at all, it will start taking on a new path. So you just have to take your time and really slowly go around the edge. But you can end up doing things like, oh, and that's what it will look like when you release it. It will have shaved off that whole shape, which was that triangle. And it took that hole off. So now you have kind of a cool top to your box. And what I was talking about before with how it can save you time is if you're making almost like a staircase shape, like here, my shape, I made this staircase, and then I did the follow me tool around the edges, created this really cool effect that would have taken me a really long time to create all of those boxes and stack them, or use the push pull tool and draw kind of squares on top of that. Instead, it did not take me long at all to just create that shape and then use the follow me tool. All right, I'm going to put everyone's hands down. So I'm going to show you guys how to use this, or to use this follow me tool, and then I want you guys to all try it. So I'm going to make my box. And then I'm going to draw my shape. And my shape this time is going to look like this. I want it to be equal, so I give it a reference point. I'm going to have to zoom in a little closer so that's easier to see. I want it to match up with this endpoint, so I'm going to give it that reference point there. There we go. I'm actually going to end up deleting that, but since I wanted it to be equal, I did it like that so that the spaces would be equal. Let me show you guys what I mean here. It's not wanting me to follow all the way up to the edge. There we go. I'm going to escape. So the reason this looks kind of wonky, I'm going to connect these pieces here, is because I was using the inference points to create equal length. So now this object, ooh, look what I did there. I thought I was drawing straight on that surface, but because it was in 3D, it actually created something off of the object. So was my bad. That can happen sometimes if you think you're making something flat. That was definitely my bad there, guys. Sorry about that. All right, so that is flat on the object. Let me try this again. All right, so now that I see that green line, I know I'm on the right face. But it's not going to let me do it unless I kind of get oriented here. So there we go. There we go. So the reason I'm doing that, I kind of wanted this square cut out, but I wanted these two sides to be equal. So I created more lines than I needed, but I can just erase them. All right. And this time it is all on the same plane, all on that box. And I'm going to move around, orbit my camera here so that I can see all the edges, so that when I select my tool, I'll be able to go around. And then I get this Follow Me tool. I went to View, Tool Palette, the large tool set, and this Follow Me tool. And you can select a surface, and you'll know when all of these blue dots are on there. And you select that surface, that face, and then you see that this edge is highlighted with red, and these dotted lines move across with my cursor. And again, I selected that edge, and I'm just moving really carefully and slowly. And there we go. Moving around my edge. Oops. And then finishing can be difficult sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't want to match back up. But there we go. I created that little stair step effect. And that just got cut out right there. Alright, so I want you guys to try this out. Your shape doesn't have to be as complicated as mine. I'm going to edit undo, called extruding. Your shape can even be just as simple as one line. That's about as simple as it can be. And you can just use this tool, the Follow Me tool, select that surface, and just really patiently go around the edges, not holding your mouse button down. Oops. And just be really careful as you try to finish it out here. Not going to want to work with me right now. Oh man. There we go. Sometimes you have to come at it a few times. So go ahead and try that. And as soon as you have it working, go ahead and raise your hand. Oh, Samuel, that is a great tip. I actually did not know that. If you hold Shift while you pan, oh, that does not work for me. Oh, if you hold Shift while you orbit, and you hold Shift, it allows you to pan, so you can be kind of doing both at the same time. It's very cool, Samuel. Thanks for showing us that. So again, I'm orbiting by just holding down my mouse, and when I press Shift, it allows me to pan. So with that orbiting highlighted. Very cool. Great, I already see some hands popping up. Remember, you have your box. You draw your shape on it. It can be as simple as just that one line that I have there. It has to be on an edge. And then you just move around the object. Great, Max, I see that you made it. That's awesome. I'm gonna try it one more time. All right, I'm not seeing as many hands. Do you guys want another example? Let me ask. Hey Kyle, do you want me to show you guys one more time? What do you think?
Yes, please.
Excellent. All right, so I'm going to do one more example here. And this time, instead of, so you can do it kind of two ways. I'll show this one again, where you draw your line on a face, starting from one edge to the next edge. So those are both connected to the edge. It's part of this face. And then you use the Follow Me tool. You select that. Oops. You select your face of the shape, and you move along the edge slowly and carefully You're not holding down your mouse key right now, you're just moving your mouse, and you click once you get the whole thing selected, and there you go. The other thing you can do is add a space. So if I just have this line here, just on the blue axis, exit there, and I'll twirl around so you guys can see. That's just a line, it looks kind of like an antenna. I can use the follow me. I'll make it have a little more there. Alright, I can use the follow me and select make it into a face. Right. And then select this face and add this shape, moving my mouse around the screen again. And now I've added a little wall to the top of where I just took off some stuff. Yeah, so Sam, I don't know if you saw me too, sometimes it can be really difficult to end it correctly. You just have to be really patient and really slow. And if it's not working and it's making these weird shapes, just start over and try again. It just takes some getting used to. It's trying to figure out what you want to do, and it's a really sensitive mouse. All right, so now try adding something. And let me show you guys again how I added to the top with the Follow Me tool. I created this shape, this triangle on top of my building. I just drew it. I'll draw it again. Being really careful to pay attention to the axes I was parallel. First the blue, then the red, and then I connected them. Then I have this flat triangle. And then I used the Follow Me tool. I selected that face, and I just traveled along the edge there, slowly and carefully. Very careful at the end. See how it didn't really want to finish, and then I moved it a little bit, and it worked out. All right. So let me know if you guys got that to work. If anyone has any questions. Yeah, raise your hand if you got it to work. And then you can see this is one surface that you just created. So you can again use your push-pull and rise it or lower it, which is cool. It doesn't necessarily have to be around just the edge. It can actually move up and down. If you do the Follow Me tool here, it can move down. That way. It kind of has a wonky finish there that I just did, but the point is the same. All right. Someone asked if I can copy things, and you can. Select the whole object and Command or Control copy and paste, and then you can place it. And remember, with the whole thing highlighted, you can rotate it. Let's say I wanted to rotate it, but I wanted to rotate it around this circle. Do it there. Or you can move it. All right, so we have about 15 minutes left. I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes. Open a new window so that you have that woman pop up. And I want you guys to design a table. It can be a cafe table that's circular. It can be a flat table with 4 legs. I just want you guys to design a table that she could sit and eat at. I want it to have some substance. I don't want it to be flat. I want it to be 3D. And I want the legs, whatever legs you decide to give it, to be uniform. I don't want them to be just random. I want them to all hit the floor at the same spot and for them to be the same size. And I want you guys to just take about 10 minutes and try to design your own table. The table I designed, I'll show you guys. Nothing fancy. This one here with 4 round legs. Just think about all the different tools that we used. And if you finish early, if you finish before the 10 minutes, go ahead and use the Follow Me tool and give it a cool border. All right, so send me a question if you have a question. I'm going to give you guys another 7 minutes. And just remember, send me a question if you aren't sure what you're supposed to be doing right now or if you don't know how to start. I'm going to give you guys the chance to design your own table. Think about how you would build it. Remember, you don't have to use separate pieces if you're having trouble with the legs. Think about how when we built a house, we just built the roof right from the original house. So you can have the table it's not going to want me to do this right now. Maybe try that. Or something like this for a leg. Clearly you don't want it up like this. You want it going to the floor. Hey Jeremy, what's your question?
Oh, I didn't mean to put my hand up, sorry.
Oh, okay, no problem at all. Sorry about that, guys. I did not mean to hit photo booth on no screen share. All right, about 3 minutes. Someone just asked if they got extra credit if they put a mug on it, and I would say definitely. That's awesome. All right, so I was pausing my screen so you didn't see what you guys seeing, but how many of you guys are happy that you felt like you got a table? Steven says he has it. That's great. I know that Ben has it because he has a cool coffee mug on his, but go ahead and raise your hand if you were like, wow, yeah, I think I really got a table that I'm happy with. Great. I see some hands up. Totally okay. If you couldn't quite figure it out, I'm going to show you what I did. But we are just starting. I just wanted you to think about how we're using these techniques to model. So the first thing I did was I created a rectangle and I pulled it up so that I gave it a little bit of thickness. And then I moved it by selecting the entire thing and using this move, and I moved it to where I decided was about the height of the woman's waist. Let me make it a little bit lower. And then the next thing I did was I thought about how I wanted to make my consistent legs of the table. So I made those squares. I made one square, and then I copied and pasted it, or I copied it, and so now I have a pasted version that I can match up right on the edges. So I know they're equally consistent. And again, if you don't remember exactly how to copy something, you just highlight one of the lines, press the shift button so that you can add more, and then you can either control or command copy or edit copy. And then we can use, and this isn't going to be the greatest option, but we only have a few minutes left, or not the greatest option, but the greatest table. We can use push-pull to get our table legs. And again, as we can see, we can use this woman to be kind of the measure of where we want to push, pull, till. So I grab the surface of the bottom of that leg and I tell it I want it to be about up to here because that's where the floor is, that's where her shoe is. And so now it matches up perfectly. And now all I have to do is the same with these other legs. But matching it to where that leg is. So these aren't exactly equal, but hopefully you guys could see how it'd be pretty easy. So this looks more like a coffee table than my other dinner table, but a big coffee table. So I hope that kind of gave you guys the idea of how you could work to build your own designs. And I want you guys to think about, I'm assigning a project for tonight where I want you guys to think about building a bookcase. And how you would build a bookcase. I want it to have at least 3 shelves. But think about different things. Like if you have, would it be easier to try to build all the different components, try to build the shelves? Or would it be easier to build just one block and then cut out the shelves? And how thick should you make everything? That's how you would cut out the shelves. And how big should it be in comparison to the woman? And just think about those different things. You can definitely make it as intricate or as beautiful as you want to. You can use the follow me tool. And there's just a lot of things that you can keep in mind. And I would love to see what you guys come up with. I think this would be a little thick for a bookcase. I don't know what you'd be having to put that far back into a bookcase. And so whatever cool projects that you guys think of, if you guys get a really cool bookcase, let me know. Post it on Edmodo. If you can take a screen picture, I'd love to see it. All right. So just definitely let me know if you have any questions. And there will not be office hours tonight. And I will see you guys on Monday. So work on those bookcases. You can also post any pictures of a cool house that you made or your table if you're especially proud of your table and your mug. I would love to see it. Have a good Wednesday, guys.